Good evening and welcome to Seat at the Table Investor Education Series. I'm your host for today, Taj Eldridge. A little bit about me before we begin. I often say I wear many hats, both literally and figuratively. I manage $25 million for Ares Charitable Foundation at the intersection of climate and workforce. And I'm also the co-founder and general partner of Include Venture Partners, a $250 million targeted fund of funds and direct investment vehicle that invests in women and people of color. So I hope you hear a lot of the things today that will help you make determinations as an investor and great decisions and enjoy your time on the platform. One of the first things I want to talk about is how do you make investments? For me, there are three things I look at when I make investments: the market, the product, the person. Those are the things you really want to assess as you're looking at making investments in startup companies. And so let's take all three from top to bottom. From the market standpoint, the market is, I think, one of the more easier things to really assess because there's a lot of data out there about potential markets. You want to work with companies that have understood that there's a huge opportunity to provide a solution for the problem that they're trying to solve with their product. That leads us into the product. For me, I look at uniqueness. I look at is there any other people or any other opportunity out there. Now, one of the things you want to see is that sometimes you might see a solution or a product that's similar to so many other people. And that's where the third piece comes in at: persons and people and team. I look at what they've done in the past. I look at how can they translate their experience to this new opportunity. I look at if they've had experience in that opportunity as well. I look at so many things, what we call both online and offline due diligence. Online due diligence is the data that you receive from investors, from platforms such as Seat at the Table, and many other things about the financial benefits of that company. Offline due diligence is that intangibles, the things that you might hear, information you might hear about the founder, things that will help you make a determination if this is a great founder to really move forward on. So remember, there are three things that we look at: market, product, person. There's a quote from Warren Buffett about investing that says, invest in what you know. I say, no more. For me, what that means is that I tend to invest in things that I enjoy, things that I know a lot about, and I'm a voracious reader. So I tend to expand my horizons of the things I do know about and the things I have expertise in. From an academic standpoint, my background is varied. Undergraduate degree, I had a degree in literature and poetry, which makes me understand the value of storytelling. My graduate degrees are in economics, political economics to be exact. So when you combine those two, it really helps me understand how can founders and opportunities tell a great story that engages the investors, that engages their customers, and then engages the media. You want to have those three things as well. But again, the idea for you as an investor is to really ensure that you're using your skill set to understand and to assess the opportunity for investment. So typically, the great thing about having a benefit on the platform such as Seat at the Table is that you have the wisdom of crowds. You have other people who have other types of degrees, other types of backgrounds that can help assess, and you'll get access to that data and knowledge about the data via the conference calls when they ask the founders those questions. So that's why it's extremely important to come to those calls and to really understand that the value add is when you have those people within the crowd with you who are asking those unique questions based upon their background. That will help you make a determination as an investor, do you want to move forward or not with the opportunity. Now let's get into how the work that I do as a fund of funds differ and actually help your opportunity as an equity crowdfunding investor. As I mentioned before, Include Venture Partners, we make investments into other venture funds, and we expect those venture funds to found deal flow and to partner with other opportunities. Sometimes those venture funds are early stage, and those early stage funds look for early stage opportunities, such as the ones that may appear on Seat at the Table. And so a lot of times you may see in the past where there are funds that who did not want to really kind of work with companies that are on equity crowdfunding platforms. And now you see a proliferation of companies on such as Republic, WeFunder, Start Engine, and even this, Seat at the Table. I think the difference between Seat at the Table is that it's a community, and it's a community of people with like-minded opportunities that really kind of come together. So I think that as you're making investments on this platform for Seat at the Table, the key to think about it is that you're going to be partnering with potential funds to provide access to the founders that you're investing in. And that can really create an opportunity to expand the type of capital that you have. One of the things I hear often when people are making investments, especially in the startup arena, is they make the mistake of thinking that that investment is something like real estate or something like investing in the stock market, neither of which are true. The difference between, I think, in the early stage when you're investing in this stage is that it's what we call illiquid. That means that you may want to make sure that the capital that you're utilizing to make investments can be tied up for at least 5 years. That 5 years is time for that company that you first invest in to go through each of the stages that it takes to really kind of scale and grow. Unlike the real estate market, when you buy real estate and there's an opportunity for a buyer and a seller to create that transaction between each other, you can offload that asset as needed. I think in the stock market is similar, that you'll have an opportunity to sell that stock into another investor that's looking to buy. But in the venture world, it's a little bit different. You're providing capital, highly risk capital, to founders who are use that money to really kind of grow their business and scale. The difference, though, is unique, I think, when it comes to venture capital versus the stock market. On average, you've seen the returns on the stock market even today in a bad market, but even in a good market as well. I think venture capital, there is an opportunity for us to look at 10x times our capital. And so that's what makes it very lucrative for the venture capital arena, but also the risk is increased as well. So one of the things I always tell for angel investors getting into the equity crowdfunding space is that the capital that you're using to make investments in this space, make sure it's capital that you can be away with for 5 years or more. Make sure it's capital that you don't need, capital that you can rely on being illiquid for a good amount of time. Those type of investments will reap the rewards if you do a lot of your due diligence and you really invest in the things that you are interested in and you have a background on, or you with, again, the wisdom of crowds to understand the risks that are in that industry. When I became an investor back in 1989, when I first started investing, I invested with my time where I was an advisor to a number of companies. And that experience for me really kind of did two things. It allowed me to really understand the type of value add that I can provide to founders, because I often say that you want to provide more than just a check. I've talked about it as the 4 C's, providing access to capital, access to connections, access to customers, and access to culture. And it's a culture of being transparent, culture of winning, a culture of doing it right the first time. When it was the process of me providing capital to companies, what I did was during my bonus times when I worked in banking, I would take my bonus to invest in startup companies. Luckily for me, a lot of failures happened. A lot of companies failed miserably. And the reason I say that's lucky for me, because I had the privilege of really kind of getting to this position where we did not win. There was a lot of learnings from those winnings. You know, I look at L's and taking an L at the time is less about taking a loss, but about taking a learning. Because afterwards, after those losses, I had 2 exits back to back. One in the political app space and one in the mobile marketing space. And so that's what began my career as an institutional investor. From that time, I ended up managing money for different institutions, such as universities and cities as well. What I also decided to do at that time is really strategize and really be specific about the type of investments that I make. And that's why I began being in the area of clean tech or climate tech or sustainability. So for the last 12 years, I spent my time, energy, and passion around climate and clean tech. Currently now, as I mentioned, I manage 2 funds. One at the intersection of climate and workforce, that's $25 million, that's funded by the Aries Charitable Foundation called CREST. And then another $250 million targeted fund-to-fund to my 2 other partners that manages amount of capital to invest in Black and brown fund managers across the US and Latin America.